got an under rating on IMDb. It's only a 7.5.
I mean, if you have Tim Curry in a serious role and he pulls it off, I mean, that should at least give you an 8. You know, you'll get the Order of Lenin for this, Captain. Welcome, everyone, to Cinema A to B, a movie talking podcast with myself, Alec, and with Ben. Say hi,
Hey,
Ben.
everybody.
Today, we're going to be talking about a oldie but a goodie, one of my favorite movies, The Hunt for Red October from 1990. We're going to dive right in. Ben, your thoughts?
Okay, just watched it last night again. Can't tell you what number viewing this would be. And this is another one that catch on TV and just catch bits and pieces. But as far as like what total viewings, I'm probably still in the single digits, but it's probably high single digits. Fabulous, still fabulous, still an exquisite movie from 90. And I just noticed when I was starting to watch it. So it's so few times that I've seen this thing start to finish where I've actually caught the opening credits.
Mm-hmm.
And
you're surprised.
I completely forgot that John McTiernan directed this movie.
That is
like
so
completely
true.
Forgot. Just was like, oh, well, wait, Predator?
What?
Die Hard? Last
with
Action
Vengeance?
Hero? Yeah, Die Hard with Vengeance. Like this guy was the king of. I mean, Die Hard's my favorite action movie ever. But admittedly, Hunt for Red October is not really an action film. But his fingerprints are all over this thing. Like the way he's able to heighten the tension.
Mm-hmm. Some of the dialogue choices.
Mm-hmm.
Like I know from just to branch off on that real quick, but I had a really good laugh because kind of with you, I was, I've seen this a lot, but was not surprised, but couldn't remember that John McTiernan had done this. And so when Alec Baldwin walks into James Earl Jones's office when he first flies over, whatever, and James Earl Jones goes, "Jack!" He goes, "You look like hell." And all I could think of was from Predator, where Arnold Schwarzenegger's like, "Dylan, you son of a bitch," And I was just like, it's like the same kind of cadence and feeling in this. Like this is how John must do intros, like as a real life person. He's just like, he goes, "Ben, you son of a bitch, you look like hell," or something along those lines, because it felt way too close.
Yeah, it's the machismo is on full display.
Yeah.
Although it's a little more subdued than the Die Hard movies or
Predator.
Obviously, Predator is like the most testosterone filled movie ever made.
Yeah.
And we're gonna have to do an episode on Predator because I love Predator.
I love Predator.
But yeah, he I think in the hands of another director, the tension would have kind of never reached the heights that it does. So it's like you almost needed an action director, but he never does that quick cutty stuff with the edit. Like it's never like over edited. And I thought all of the really tense moments still felt really tense. Mm-hmm. And the music has aged really well. And you get that really cool, like male orchestral to drive home
Russians.
The whole, the Russian. Yeah. And in that way,
excuse me, Soviets.
Yeah, no, that's true. It is. They are Soviet and Scottish Soviet
and British.
Yeah. But two things. One, obviously the whole like male choir stuff worked really well in this movie because Crimson Tide does the same thing and it works to tremendous effect. And then the other thing was that I love how they do that transition from the Russian to the English.
Yes.
Where the political officer is reading he's reading Revelation and or some sort of muddled version of Revelation. But yeah, the camera zooms in on his mouth and then he says the word Armageddon and then we're in the English.
Yeah.
And so
fun fact, Armageddon is the same in Russian, and it's pronounced slightly differently, in Russian than in English, but it's the same word. There's not like a different word. So that was a nice choice to transition. Yeah, and so it works, right? Because, and what's funny is you'll watch this movie from the very beginning, and God bless Sean Connery, he just didn't care. The man never like tried to do an accent other than his
normal broke. Like he just doesn't care. And he's such a good actor that it doesn't matter.
No.
And like his Russian is terrible. I mean, just dreadful. Sam Neill actually puts forth an effort to like give you some semblance of a Russian accent, but Connery just doesn't care, and it doesn't matter.
No.
And then once you're in the English, his Scottish lilt is is completely on full display.
Yeah, it's just everywhere.
Sam Neill actually tries to still give like a Russian accent to what he's doing, but it's all over the place. I noticed like half the officers try to do a Russian accent, and then there's this one guy. There's one guy who's just American. Like,
are you talking about and the admiral guy who like is actually in the home base at HQ or whatever, and like his valet or whatever, or his like busman?
Well, his assistant, totally American accent, just didn't care.
Doesn't even try.
No, and then one of Ramius's officers, like when they're all having dinner, you're like first introduced to him, and I don't remember who it is. He doesn't have that many. He has some lines of and it's just an American actor, and he just didn't even try to. I think he saw Connery on set and was just like, "Oh, it works for him. I'm not even going to try to give a Russian accent." So I mentioned this because that's honestly the only shortcoming of this movie.
Mm-hmm.
That's pretty much it. It's amazing from start to finish in every other regard.
I completely agree. So I got introduced to this movie early on in my life because my dad loves this movie, absolutely loves it. I think it's by far his favorite sub film. It's my favorite sub film. It's definitely up there in my favorite films of all time. I think this movie is great.
Yeah.
So Laura has, interestingly enough, seen pieces of this movie constantly, and she may have seen it all the way through but didn't pay attention. So when we watched it 2 nights ago, it was really her first time to sit and watch it. And at the end of it, I'm like, this holds up. This is fantastic. And she's just like, it didn't hold up. It wasn't great. Now, she focused a lot on the accents a lot. You know, as someone who studied Russian and was big into it, she was not happy at all that these people were talking the way they were. And specifically, she was, the valet. She was talking about Sean Connery. She didn't really like it. Now, I give her some credit, but she's completely and utterly wrong in this regard. This is a fantastic movie. I mean, it's a spy. It's not really a thriller, but a spy movie that turns into somewhat action, but also has some, geopolitical tensions happening. And like you talked about earlier, like John McTiernan does a great job of kind of editing that all together and not letting it go down the rabbit hole too far in any direction, and allowing these pieces to just unfold and move things along. And I'm going to tell you, the dialogue is still, Laura was joking that she didn't really like the dialogue. I'm like, there are so many quotable lines that I still say in my regular, like kind of like you were talking about Shawshank and stuff. Like I have a buddy that I used to work with. He and I would always, look at each other and goes, what are these doors? And be like, the other one would respond with, the doors are the problem, or just anything, or like just one ping, Vasily, one ping only. Like I use only. These, use these all the time, and it's not maybe all the time, but pretty regularly, and it's just great. It's just so enjoyable.
Yeah, go ahead.
I was like, even the shot selection, but really, like for me, one of the people who steals the show is Courtney B. Vance, who plays Jonesy, the guy aboard the Dallas who does all the sonar and stuff like that, where he's listening to everything.
Right.
Yeah, like he steals the show for me. Like
he does.
Like every time he's in a scene, he just eats up that scene. Just does a great job of playing this, eccentric sonar operator.
You have labored to produce a biologic. A what?
A whale.
Beaumont. An animal that knows a hell of a lot more about sonar than you do. Yeah, no, the dialogue's great. Here's the thing why I think maybe Laura didn't resonate. This, not only is this a guy's movie, it's full of all guys. Like there's literally one woman on screen pretty much, which is Ryan's wife briefly at the beginning.
Yeah, that's it.
And that's it.
And his daughter.
His daughter, which is a cute thing at the beginning of the film, but the rest of it's just dudes. Like, and that's what it was, right? There's this era. There's no women on attack or nuclear ballistic missile submarine. That's just not.
No.
So I came away from it. You're talking about performances. Obviously, Alec Baldwin is great and really underrated. And I guess in the brief research I looked at, and I didn't know this, I guess they did approach Harrison Ford for this role first, and he turned it down because he didn't like how much attention was spent on Ramius with Connery, and so he turned it down.
Connery vehicle. Yeah.
And so Baldwin takes it and does really well with it. And this is my favorite Jack Ryan movie. I think this is his best, the best they've gotten it to. Patriot Games is pretty close, but this is the best thing. Well, and then I guess Baldwin didn't get kicked out of the role. He turned down Patriot Games. He wasn't available.
No. They didn't. Well, so what I read was
they didn't wait for him. He had a Broadway thing going, and he told him, don't wait around for me, and they didn't. Oh. Yeah, so they didn't. So they cast Harrison Ford, and it's been a mess ever since then. Patriot Games was really good, but Clear and Present Danger, and then they've just struggled to figure out how to make more Jack Ryan movies. But so this is the good one. This is a really good one.
I completely agree. Well, and so I heard read a different thing in my little short research about why they switched to Harrison Ford and Clear and Present Danger was that after the success of Hunt for Red October, he asked for more money.
Well, that's possible.
And then they were like, well, for that money, we can just get Harrison Ford. And so who they originally wanted, and that's what they did.
Both could be true, I guess. But
so either way, that's how the industry rolls, people. So, craziness.
Yeah, but you wonder if we wouldn't have gotten a better franchise if Baldwin could have stayed in the role and aged with the character, because they had to leap from 35-year-old Jack Ryan in Hunt for October to 50-year-old Jack Ryan in Patriot Games.
Yep.
Even though Patriot Games is supposed to be an earlier novel, it's like a prequel to this. But no, the other performance I want to single out in this movie, and watching it again, that I came away from it going, holy smokes, he was so good, was Scott Glenn as the Dallas captain.
Yeah.
He's great. He's great. And like there's so much subtlety with his role, but he holds his own up next to Sean Connery, and you can't always say that with people.
No.
Like Connery has a tendency to overpower lesser actors. And Scott Glenn feels like his match, and I love this. Yeah.
But in a reserved way, like he definitely plays his like the two captains are vastly different. Like the way Sean Connery plays Ramius, and Glenn plays
Mancuso,
yeah, Mancuso is just like you have this kind of much more bombastic Sean Connery flavor to Ramius, where Glenn has a very much more reserved but powerful reserve. Like he radiates that I'm in charge. I don't need to tell people. I don't need to show people I'm the one in charge. I'm making the decision. The weight of command weighs heavy on my shoulders, kind of a thing. I mean, you get some of that from Sean Connery, but Sean Connery, as we talked about, I mean, he was himself basically, and that kind of a lot more bombastic. Oh, it does, Yeah,
that's why you cast Sean Connery.
Yeah.
You don't try to make him something he's not.
I know this book. Your conclusions were all wrong.
Halsey acted stupidly. No, but I love this. I have so many favorite scenes, but I love the scene with Scott Glenn when he's on he's doing Morse code through the periscope. He's like,
yes.
That's okay. It's okay, Mr. Ryan. My Morse might be so rusty. I might be sending him dimensions on Playmate in a month. So yeah, the movie is serious. The content is serious, but it isn't afraid to have some moments of levity kind of peppered throughout. And that's totally McTiernan. That's a John McTiernan signature. Another director wouldn't have had that. This thing would have been almost too self-important.
Yeah.
So yeah, it has those moments where you crack up. And then, like I was doing before we rolled with Baldwin, Connery tells him, be careful what you shoot out. Some of these things on the sub don't react well to bullets. And then later he's called. Well. He does a great impression of Connery.
He does.
I don't react well to bullets either. Yeah. It's a fun flick. It's a fun flick. The only thing watching it that I looked really dated and I still hate is that whole. I love the dialogue and the moment's really great, but it's really hurt by a terrible blue screen. Yeah, the blue screen's terrible when they're supposed to be on the top of the sub on that river.
Yeah.
It doesn't work. And I'm like, how obviously the studios are not going to spend the time and money on a restoration to fix that, but I wish they would.
Yeah.
I wish they'd just go in and do better compositing work so that scene holds up, because it doesn't work. Like, I love the dialogue that he's quoting Columbus, and it ends really well.
It does. From even though it starts out really well, like everything that everything that's about to happen never happened, or didn't happen, or did happen. I forget exactly what the thing was where they're talking about they lost the sub,
they say, which you'll notice this. Oh, it's a lot. Yeah. Okay. So the event is inspired by a real naval event, but it's very different. But they try to, without putting based on a true story at the beginning of the movie, they do try to get you to buy into, this really happened in 1984. A U.S. Soviet Typhoon class, disappeared, or no.
Yeah. So we have two recurring actors in this that we've recently reviewed that also gave great performances, but really small parts in this. Stellan obviously is Tupolev. Like, just as always, fantastic actor, just kills it, in this. And then Jeffrey Jones, Skip Tyler, the guy who lost his leg that was working on subs.
Yeah, and we can't give Jeffrey Jones too much love because he's just like a terrible.
Yeah, he's
a terrible human being. But yeah, he gets one of the best monologues in the whole movie.
Yeah,
yeah, when he reveals what these doors could do, and
what the
which is totally fictitious, by the way. There is no Magneto drive. It sounds cool, but
NSA, CIA. There is no Caterpillar drive. That's what we're saying.
No, yeah, but you're right. That he doesn't get that much screen time, but he's so good, and he does this whole monologue about building a bomb shelter with his dad because of the Cuban Missile Crisis. Yeah, he kills it. He kills it.
Yeah.
What I loved in the lead up to that scene made me realize, was like, when you're watching Baldwin come into that dry dock, that's real.
Mm-hmm.
Like, there's no blue screen there. Like, they really shot in that dry dock. I don't know if the sub is real. That could have been a mock-up. By the way, I'm watching the opening going, they must have built some crazy floating mock-up of the Typhoon, right? And it's massive. Like, I don't even know if it's completely to scale. It could be a little bit smaller. It wouldn't have mattered. But I'm watching it going, oh, that's nuts. Like, they would have just CGI'd that thing now. They actually built it.
Yeah.
And then all the model work is so fantastic. Like, all the underwater stuff is so good.
Which they didn't do underwater. It's all with wires. None of that. Well, at least that's what I read, was none of that was underwater. They actually just did it, simulated it with wires, and removed the wires in post.
Did they layer something in front of it to create the water effect?
Like, I think so.
A plate?
Maybe.
I'd have to look it up.
Yeah.
So you're telling me there was no tank that they were.
There's no tank. It's all models on wires in the air.
So they must have layered in a water effect over everything then, because there's some really cool stuff. You can see kind of material floating, the way kind of open ocean looks, like, algae and plankton and stuff. I don't know. It's in the image. It's crazy.
They fixed it in post.
They must have been. Yeah, the special effects, other than that in shot, the special effects are still hold up really, really well.
Again, because it's the physicality of models, the physicality of actually doctoring something up to use, as opposed to just computer graphics, which just never hold up, because models, they look the same from year to year for the most part. It's just how we film them gets better. Whereas with computer graphics, obviously it does get better year to year. How we do flesh, how we do eyes, how we do, trees, like the processing power to do all this stuff gets better, so we can do more. So.
I'm telling you, this early 90s period for visual effects is probably still the best, or one of the best eras that Hollywood's ever had, because Terminator 2, there is CGI, but very little, and a lot of it's practical. And then this is the case too. There might be a little bit of CG rendering going on in this, but at 1990, it might be a little early.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's visually, it's awesome. Now, they did build the inside of the Typhoon, that is a set, and it's really a cool set. It tilts. It reminds me of the same technology that Christopher Nolan used in Inception for that rotating hallway.
Yeah.
Yeah, it did a similar thing. It was on a giant gimbal, basically, and it tilted. So they built that one. But then I did read that the interior of the Dallas, I believe, is a real naval simulator. And that most of the and then the crew, most of the crew are real sailors.
Well, I know the Navy had a pretty decent hand in helping this. You know,
and
much
then
like
there's
with
another
Top Gun.
Yes, yeah, and another. I think the Akula class that Tupolev captains. So I read that's either another simulator or the interior of a real Navy attack sub, and they slapped like Russian tags
Stuff
all over everything. Yeah, and kind of changed the lighting. So yeah, you get some authenticity in this that shows through. That's aged well. It's a cool movie. It's just 1990. I mean, it's so old now. Like, I just don't.
Who's going to go back?
Yeah.
But I have yet to see another movie that is with subs that is this interesting. I mean, Crimson Tide is great, but that's also getting old. You know, old. Das Boot is great. I mean, like, there's a lot of good sub movies out there, but this one, it's more than just a sub movie, you know, and adds that extra layer.
Yeah,
I mean, interesting.
Das Boot was kind of the first one, and it's just so long. Like, the runtime on Das Boot's kind of daunting. And then there was this in 90, and then only 5 years later you get Crimson Tide.
And then the
only other one after that was that U-571. And it's a lesser movie. It's a lesser movie with McConaughey and Bill Paxton.
Don't you also have Harrison Ford did his sub movie with K-19 Widowmaker?
It's not a good movie.
No, it's not. I mean, I'm not saying it was, but you also have that trash.
See, and Harrison should have learned from Connery. I mean, they worked together.
Yeah.
On Last Crusade, he should have learned from him.
Just
don't mess with the accent. Yeah. Just don't mess with the accent. Just be Harrison Ford. It'll be fine.
Yeah. That's what they hired you for. No.
Yeah. Is Liam Neeson in that too?
Oh,
is he his XO?
I think so. I don't know.
Probably.
It's been. I watched it once, and I think I immediately forgot about it because it was so terrible. It was just terrible. It was not this movie. This movie, much like Shawshank, like, if it's on, I'm watching, you know, until at least the next commercial or something, wherever it starts. Just because it, you know, much like Shawshank, it's that fun. I can always hop in, really enjoy this film, really like it a lot.
Yeah, I actually think Red October is kind of got an under rating on IMDb. It's only a 7.5. I would put it closer to an 8 or 7.9 or something.
I mean, if you have Tim Curry in a serious role and he pulls it off, I mean, that should at least give you an 8, you know? You'll get the Order of Lenin for this, Captain.
And then the best anecdote I have about this movie is right around that same scene. Is when for our listeners. So for our listeners, there was a third roommate in Los Angeles with Alec and I, and his dad is a very prominent close-up shot as an extra in Hunt for Red October.
He does.
It's when it's basically when I think they think that the Red October's finally been sunk, and they're all on their life rafts, and there's a quick panning shot, and his dad gets a close-up. And I didn't believe him when he first told us. And then I popped it on and went straight to it. I was like, holy smokes. But the funnier story is, and his father's Ukrainian. And the funnier story, and most of them weren't Russian. Most of them were from Ukraine.
Yeah.
And the joke was that they purposely messed up shots so that they could get extra days of work. They took like, I don't know, it was supposed to be a couple days worth of work, and they turned it into like a week and a half. I don't know. Or if it was a week of shooting, they turned it into like 2. Like, they basically got together, and there weren't a bunch of like Russian speakers, native Russian speakers on the crew. And so they all agreed and just talked amongst themselves. Like, we're just going to screw shots up as much as we can so that they have to just keep shooting.
That is not surprising at all.
No, it's so much fun. But yeah, I didn't believe him, and then I turned it on. I'm like, holy, yeah. Yeah. And his name's Alec as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, my goodness. All right. Well, final thoughts you have on Hunt for October until we. Because I'm sure we can keep going.
It's kind of weird to have a category called like sub movies, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's what this is, and it's the best of the bunch.
Oh, by far.
I guess Crimson Tide would be the number 2 spot on that.
Yeah.
But Crimson Tide's a totally different movie.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it just is. It's less. It's kind of less expansive. This Red October feels like an epic. Like it just goes all over the place. He starts in London, goes to the U.S., has that funny briefing with the National Security Council, which is a great scene.
When do you leave? Next time, write a memo.
Yeah. I said, speak your mind, Jack. Jesus. Yeah. James Earl Jones gets great lines in this.
He does.
And he's the only carryover to the other movies as Greer.
Yeah.
And he's great. If somebody hasn't seen this movie, watch it. We've somehow managed to talk about this movie and not spoil one bit of it.
We try not to. Yeah.
Really, not any major plot. I mean, a little bit, but I don't know what kind of genre like people enjoy that I would recommend this. But it's a little bit of everything. You're right. It's spy thriller. It's got good action,
drama. You know.
Yeah, it kind of has it all,
and enough like comedy to kind of keep you going and somewhat lighthearted throughout it. So. Yeah, and I just feel like people are obligated to probably see pretty much as close to the entire catalog of the late Sean Connery as you probably can. Yeah.
He didn't make that many bad movies. Not really.
No.
And he was at the top of his game in this too. There's a subtlety to his performance in this. He's kind of a natural. This guy was not like classically trained and just had it.
He didn't have
just
to try
the
hard.
Definition of a movie star.
Yep. I'll agree. My final thoughts are just see it. It's a lot of fun. It's enjoyable. It's kind of a slice of or still, late Cold War, geopolitical stuff. A lot of fun.
I do want to have one last aside. It's hysterical. Okay. The political officer. His name is Putin.
Yep, it is.
which is hysterical.
Yeah. And if you haven't ever watched it, watch it. And if it held up and you liked it, let us know. If you were like, you all lied to me, this was terrible trash, let us know that too. I mean, you're not going to, but let us know.
Yep. So great film from 1990.
All right.
Well, I appreciate everybody watching and listening to another installment of Cinema A to B, and go ahead and hit that subscribe button on the YouTubes. And then we are on social media at Cinema A to B, TikTok, unfortunately. No, follow us on Instagram and Facebook. Follow us there.
Follow us on TikTok if that's where you enjoy
if that's your
content.
thing. If that's your thing, and follow us there until the U.S. government bans it. But yeah, and let us know what you think of these movies. And this was a fan request.
It was.
We should mention that this was, and we were more than happy to talk about it. I love Red October. All right.
Hopefully we did it justice. Well, thanks everybody.